Trading up. So now the carburetors have gone, I've bought this. Let's have a look what it is. Next stage of the trading up. Sold the carburetors. Bought that. What is it? It's an R1150RT twin spark engine. But it's not just an any old engine. It's got a new clutch on it. It's got quite nice end covers, the magnesium end covers, in good condition and not all scuffed up. And it's a good runner. So what am I going to do with it then? Well, I had a few issues and a few thoughts when I first got it. The original plan was to restore it. But the problem is with restoring an engine, it's done 80,000 miles. So who's going to buy an 80,000 mile engine, even if it's been restored and looks really nice? One of the issues with this particular engine is all 6 of the exhaust studs have snapped. So that's got to be attended to in order to make it viable. So what? Hello everybody. Well, this is the next stage of trading up, and we're looking at the next item and seeing what we're going to do. Now this is, as you know, an 1100RT engine, twin spark, and I've said that I'm going to strip it and then sell each part as like a separate item. So effectively I'm stripping this engine and selling the parts, and then that'll be it. And so this video is going to be how do you strip an engine of an 1150RT, and then once we've sold all of those parts, maybe we'll have enough cash to buy ourselves a bike. So the first thing to do is take off the end cover by undoing these 4 bolts. Take the end cover off. You can see this end cover is in nice condition. It won't cleaning up a bit before I sell it, but yeah, it's nice. So let's whip that off. Place an oil catchment bowl underneath the head, because when you free that top off, oil is going to run out. So now all the bolts are now loosened off, and now it's time to pry it off. The bolts are all loose, been removed from the head. We just got to pry it off. Light tap with a rubber hammer. There goes the oil up. Into your bowl. Even though this engine's been standing for a long time, there's still oil in the end cover. So you take that off, drain anything that's inside it out, and then look. That will give you a good indication if there's anything wrong with this engine. And as you can see, that's immaculate, which is a good indication this engine is in really nice condition. Put that to one side because that's going to be cleaned up. Now we've got the head to remove. So the next thing to remove are these 2 bolts here. Put those to one side. Now just pry that off very carefully. That comes off. Once again, look in there to make sure there's no metal or bits and pieces that shouldn't be there. Then we're going to undo that. Now we're not going to take it off, we're going to undo it, because remember this engine's being stripped, so it's not going to be put back together, so you don't have to worry about position. So we're just going to loosen it off. Do not undo. In order to stop the engine turning, because you can access the crankshaft flywheel, you lock the flywheel to prevent the engine turning. Notice there's a hole there in the flywheel, and if you pass a rod through that hole and rotate the crankshaft, you'll find that there's a hole on the other side, and that will lock the crankshaft into position. There you go, locked into position. So now the engine won't turn, so now you can easily loosen this bolt off. You loosen the bolt off, don't remove it. The next thing you're going to do is to remove the tensioner, which is that bolt there at the bottom. This one here, look. Take that out completely, and then the cam chain is totally detensioned. Remove it completely, and out will come the tensioner. The cam chain is now detensioned, so now you can remove that bolt and there won't be any issues. So now to remove the head, you undo these four and undo them in a diagonal sequence, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and do them a bit at a time until they are loose. Then you've got that bolt there, look, inside there, that bolt there, inside there, those two bolts there. Remove all of them, and then we'll go to the next stage. Ooh. Right, so now before you tap it, just lever the sprocket gently off of the camshaft. A few light taps with a hammer, freeze it off. Then all we've got to do is gently pull it up the studs. The gasket will stick, so just be careful that you don't rip the gasket and cause issues with your locating dowels. So once it's been disconnected, see, one of the dowels has come off. Gently disconnect it, and you can see this is in rather nice condition. Put that to one side to then be inspected at a later date. Now we're going to remove the barrel. To remove the barrel, take that off, because that holds the cam chain guide. If you don't take that off, you'll break that. Then remove that bolt there, that bolt there, and those two bolts inside. One, and then that one at the top there, look. Remove them, and then the barrel will slide out along the studs, leaving the piston connected to the rod. Then you gently pull it out until the piston falls free, and then you've got the barrel off them. So removal of that bolt allows the guide to be released. So obviously if that guide isn't released, when you pull the barrel off, you'll break that guide. The barrel won't come off. So now all of the bolts are out. So all we need now is a light tap, and then we should be able to pull the barrel gently off. A few light taps later, few later, the barrel begins to move, and obviously as it moves, the cam chain will feed its way through, but also ultimately the piston will come out of the barrel. So put a cloth underneath so it doesn't drop onto the studs, and then gently support it as it comes out. Then remove the barrel completely from the block. Inspect the barrel. This barrel is in superb condition, absolutely superb. Still got the cross hatching from when it was originally manufactured. Superb condition. Now the piston, which is at TDC, will need to be removed from the rod. The way you do that, disconnect this circlip here, push the gudgeon pin through the other side, that will allow the piston to come apart. Circlip removed, so you can push the gudgeon pin through, which will then off the rod. Gently allow the rod to rest gently. Inspect the piston, and we'll have a look at that later on. We'll put that to one side so you know what barrel it fits. So now we're going to remove the clutch pressure plate and the friction plate. What you do here, you undo all of these gently, a little tiny bit at a time. Don't undo them all the way, because then you'll distort the plate. You just undo them a little bit at a time until ultimately they're all released. And then once they're all loosened off, remove them all, and then you can take off the plate. And as this comes off, oh, there's the spring plate just pulled off. You can see by the thickness of this friction plate, this is virtually brand new. That's virtually a brand new clutch. It's only just been fitted. So, a nice item. So now, we'll loosen these off. That is still holding the flywheel firmly locked. Loosen these off. Don't take them off, just loosen them off. So you've actually broken the tension on them. And then we're going to loosen off the flywheel bolt at the other side. You will need a wheel bar, and you'll have to steady the engine. They're now loose. Flywheel is now loose. We're not going to take the flywheel off yet because we want to use that. Now, whilst the flywheel is pinned on the other side, remove this bolt. This will allow the crank pulley to come off. Once crank pulley is off, you can then see the Hall effect sensors. So you can remove the Hall effect sensors, then we're going to move these bolts, and we're going to remove this end cover, which will allow us access to the timing gears. So remove these three, 1, 2, 3, and then that will then allow you, I'll just move this out of the way, to remove the Hall effect sensor. Note what type of end it's got. This is the later one that's fitted to the 1150. Does not fit the earlier versions of the 1100. We have to remove all of the bolts all the way round the end cover, and then that will allow us to remove the end cover itself. So once all the bolts are removed, everything's clear. A few light taps with a rubber mallet, this should come off. You've got to be careful, there's an oil seal here, so you don't want to bend it too much. Obviously I know you're going to renew the oil seal, but I mean you don't want to muller it. So a couple of taps, and there you go. And then you can see now, this is the timing chain. Crankshaft drives the oil pump and jack shaft, which in turn drives the cam chain. Here you've got the cam chain tensioner, the chain itself with the guides, 2 guides, tensioner. So now what we're going to do now is remove that nut there, remove the tensioner, remove this pipe here, move the tensioner, undo that nut, take that off. We'll probably leave the crankshaft sprocket on the crank. So remove that nut, remove this. This is the oil feed pipe, goes into the oil pump at the bottom. This allows you access to these 3 bolts here, which hold the chain tensioner on. So undo these nice and gently, remove the chain tensioner. Once the chain tensioner has been removed, you can then remove the sprockets. I've undone that nut already. You can undo the, you can take the chain and the sprockets off and put it away nice and neatly. This engine is in superb condition. Obviously whoever owned it used to do oil and filter changes on a regular basis because it's superb. The engine is really nice. There's the tensioner. Put that down there, out of the way. That then leaves this clear. And you can remove this bolt totally, which will then allow you to remove the chain and sprocket as a complete assembly. These bolts here retain the oil pump to the case. If we take the oil pump off next, you can take the camshaft sprocket off by undoing those 3 bolts. I'm not really going to bother because there's no real need to remove that sprocket. So I'm going to take the crankshaft out as a complete assembly when I get round to it. So now we undo these bolts, remove each one nice and carefully. And then that allows the front section of the oil pump to be removed. Look how nice that is. That is so clean. That is such a clean pump. This bike, look at that oil. That oil's brand new. That oil is brand new. This bike has been so well looked after, and that's why it's in excellent condition. You can see the gears of the oil pump itself in superb condition, no scoring, no marks, because quite often when you take these apart you see scoring on these where crap has got in there. But look, they are like brand new. There is absolutely no marks on them at all. Notice the 2 pit marks there which align them during assembly. This pump is in superb condition. This bike, this engine, is in excellent condition. It's done 80 odd thousand miles, but you wouldn't know it. It is in superb condition. Now pull the housing off, being very careful. Make sure you maintain the gears in the correct position. That pump is in superb, and I mean superb condition. Absolute. That pump is as good as brand new. That pump is brand new. This is a jack shaft which has got the internal gear of the oil pump, and obviously rotates the cam chain. Once that's been removed, everything is now ready to physically undo the peripheral bolts. So now you look at the peripheral bolts around the entire engine block. Remove the flywheel. There's 2 peripheral bolts here. Remove the stands and the mounting plates, because they will hold the cases together. There's 2 peripheral bolts in there, some all the way along the edge, underneath, and then you've got these bolts in here are the main bearing bolts, so that you have to undo those quite carefully. You don't just undo them, you have to release them nice and gently. There's 2 here which are also main bearing bolts, and then if you look below there are 4 bolts, one of which is inside the engine, and they clamp the jack shaft into position. So we have to undo all of the peripheral bolts, remove the stands, and then we're in a position to split the cases. And then once we split the cases, then we can very carefully take out the jack shaft, the crankshaft, timing chains, and chain guides. So let's do that and see how we get on with the next bit, which is case splitting. So these bolts taken out, both sides. These bolts which hold the jack shaft in, taken out, both sides. The peripheral bolts all the way around the outside of the engine, they'll be taken off, and then take those covers off of the stand. We're going to now remove the stand and the mounting brackets so we can finish the peripheral bolts, and then we can actually start splitting the cases. So the stand has been taken off, and we've gone all the way around it and got all the peripheral bolts off. There are a few down here which you've got to be careful of because it's very easy to miss them. One, for example, in that hole there. Now, once you get it to that stage there, you're then ready to split the case. And then once the case splits, make sure that the cam chain guides come out nice and gently, because you can disassemble them once the case is split. The crank and the jack shaft will come out as well, but you've got to be very careful. So that's where we are next. And now we tap it all the way around with a rubber hammer until ultimately it's coming apart. You've got to be really careful here that you don't damage any of the cam chain guides, because as it's coming apart you can see that the crank shaft is staying in this half, but the cam chain tensioners guides are held in position by this shaft here, and the jack shaft is loose as well, so I'm going to try and get that this case here to come apart. Like that. This is why you can't change the guides with the engine not split, because of that. Retained right in the middle of the engine. There's a jack shaft with the cam chains, and it's got the forward rotor from the oil pump. Absolutely superb condition, this engine, absolutely first class. So yeah, there you go. That is the engine stripped. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to clean every single part up, inspect it, make sure it's in good condition. If it can be sold, it will be. If it can't be sold, I'll scrap it. From what I've seen, most of that is ready for sale virtually after it's cleaned up. I mean, the only exception's the heads, because they've got snap studs, but I can probably renew those studs by drilling the old ones out, except a bit of a job, but you know, and then I'll be able to sell them as well. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to end this video, but show you in the next video all of the parts all cleaned up, ready for sale, and then obviously the video will show you what's sold, how much it's sold for, and then we'll go through to the next item on the trading up scale. See you then. Bye.